Oh, hi! My name is Shadow and today I'm going to talk about the Scottish broadsword. This kind of broadsword was invented in the 17th century in Scotland and became very iconic due to its hilt design, as you can see. The name of the sword is also part of an ongoing debate, since many people call it a Claymore, which would be translated to great sword, but not as in greatsword, because that would be the Claydoleth. I made a whole video about the Claydoleth, which I will link down in the description, of course. So, why was this called a broadsword? The answer is simple. The blade was broader than the blade of a rapier or a small sword back then. Also, the term broadsword is often misused in media and video games for medieval arming swords or for even greater swords. But when it comes to historical European martial arts, the term broadsword is mostly reserved for this one here. You could also call it a baskethiltsword, but chances are, if someone is talking about his baskethiltsword, he could be referring to his Italian sciavona or even his German palash, because all these swords are also baskethilted and broadswords. The nomenclature of these kind of swords could fill up a whole nother video, but in this video I will refer to this to a claymore, because this is the contemporary term of this sword. The claymore has a double-edged blade, which means it has a sharp edge in the front of the blade, but also on the back of the blade. They also tended to have several funnels on the blade for more blade stiffness. I hope you can see them, which is very beneficial for thrusting, because you drive the sword better through the object instead of just pushing it away, because of the blade flexing too much in that process. If the claymore had a single-edged blade, it was called a backsword. Well, because the back of the blade was blunt. It could also have a curved blade looking like a saber, which was called a turcael. As I mentioned before, the most distinct feature on the claymore was the baskethilt. The baskethilt was a crossguard with clasp-like formations around the hand of the wielder for more protection. Armor wasn't around that much anymore in the 17th century, but melee weapons were still. So instead of a gauntlet, you had a stationary protection on your sword. The protection on top of the baskethilt was way higher than on the bottom part, which is logical because of the natural motion of your hand. It also made drawing the sword much easier, and while fencing you always try to have your sword between you and your enemy, and in this case your hand is very well protected from any attacks on it, and the baskethilt can also fare like a little shield to protect your head or other body parts where you need it to be. One of the most distinct features of a Scottish claymore were also these two little quillons here on top of the basket. You could use them to push the shield of the enemy away, or the enemy's weapon if it was in this motion. And I had one instance where the enemy's weapon was caught inside the quillon of my sword, which gave me some advantage because I could control the weapon for a short of time from my enemy and, give him a nasty thrust into the chest. If you ended up in close quarters with your claymore, this thingy here becomes a great knuckle duster. The thing punches hard. If you get this to your face, it will make you spit teeth from the weight alone. Also, if you look closely, there is a big gap between my fingers and the basket, which means you feel the pressure but no pain at all when punching your enemies. Also, back then, many of these swords had a decorative colored inliner in it. I also have one which serves for for cushioning the impact on the basket and also as a protection against thrusts between the gaps of my basket. So, are there any downsides to a basket? Yes, there are. The basket adds more weight to the sword, which could over time tire you out faster. Not fast, but faster. While fencing, your wrist is protected on top very well, but unfortunately not at all on the bottom. So a false cut from below could still drive into your wrist. It is still not advisable to close this gap here, since it limits your hand movement even more with the basket. Another thing is that the basket hilt forces me into a hammer grip all the time. As a saber fencer, I find this a little bit limiting because I like to alter between the hammer grip and the shake hand grip. The thumb grip also is not possible with this basket here, since there is no space for my thumb, you know. Unfortunately, many of these baskets still have gaps that are large enough to thrust through. So a little bit of caution is still recommended when you are fencing with these kind of hilt. As you can see, the basket took way more space than a simple crossguard, which made the everyday carry a little less convenient. Also, it was a little bit more difficult to draw the sword fast, since you always have to put your hand directly into the hole of the basket. The design was still so good that the Scottish Highland regiment kept this style of sword well into the 19th century. Fencing with the Claymore is mostly identical to saber fencing when it comes to the footwork. You can also advance, retreat, do a long lunge, or if the need arises, do a little slip. Always coordinating your attacks according to your footwork, of course. The biggest difference is just the basket hilt that is always in front of you, protecting your hand or your head in certain guards. To protect your exposed arm, you could use a little shield like the targe. The targe was formidable to protect your exposed arm while attacking, and also to block the enemy's weapon for a little advantage. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my video about the Claymore, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you want to see more Claymore stuff, let me know in the comments below. Till then, I see you next time in another video. Have a good day.